Okay, well, good afternoon. Just like to introduce Si6. We're an Australian-based exploration company. We have projects we're exploring for gold in Western Australia, the Monument Gold Project and the Mobili Base Metal Project in Botswana. And we've been exploring in Botswana for some time, and we're very excited about our Botswana assets. And today I'll just give a brief rundown of the main targets that we'll be focusing on in the coming months. Some of you might know Botswana, but if not, Botswana is a fantastic place to explore. It's some refer to it as the Switzerland of Africa. It's a very well governed country. It's a great exploration jurisdiction. It's very easy to operate there. The Mining Act is solid, and it's and very little corruption. So it's probably one of the best places in Africa to be exploring. And that's we're very happy to be focused there. Just quickly where we are, you can see the map there. We've got our projects in eastern Botswana, and zooming in below that, you can see our suite of tenure. It's a pretty extensive land position in a belt of rocks called the Limpopo Mobile Belt. And we have a number of exploration targets on that belt, but the main ones we'll be talking about today are Mobili North, which is a cobalt, copper, nickel, cobalt, PGE resource, and with a lot of potential, and Airstrip and Dabiti prospects, which are high-grade copper and silver mineralization. There's a long strike of potential mineralization in that belt of rocks, and certainly plenty of other projects to assess in there for a variety of styles of mineralization. Up until recently, we had a joint venture with BCL, who are a government-owned entity mining nickel and copper in the region, Salibi Piquet mine, which is a 30 or 40 kilometers along strike from where we're exploring. They've recently gone into liquidation, and some interested parties out of Canada are looking to purchase that asset and start up the mine again. And they still are our minor joint venture partner, and we'll be talking to whatever party takes on that asset to reinvigorate mining in the area. So just to focus in on our main projects, I'm going to quickly look at Mobili North. Mobili North has been the primary project for Si6 in Botswana for a number of years. It's a nickel, copper, cobalt, platinum group element resource with plenty of potential. So there's the long strike length of known mineralization. It's about 1.4 kilometers of continuous strike. Known mineralization normally extends to about 250 meters depth, but we do have some deeper intersections along strike and down plunge, which I'll be talking about. And when we were in joint venture, when BCL were operating, they were really interested in looking at mining that resource to stave off the liquidation ultimately, but certainly it was seen to be amenable to feeding through their mine plant. We feel at the moment that there's plenty of potential to grow. The resource is open along strike to the northeast and southwest, and also at depth. So we think that there's plenty of opportunity to grow the resource there and make it even more attractive for mining, either as a standalone or potentially as something that could be part of the BCL operation. I'll just quickly look at this. What have we been doing this year? What previously had been done, it's a massive nickel sulfide resource. There's some very nice grades in there. It does pinch and swell a bit. Back in 2014, as part of the joint venture, we did manage to drill a deep hole called hole 94, which was a long strike and down plunge, and you can see it on the slide there. It's sort of to the east of the purple resource outline, and it sits about 250 meters deeper than that resource outline. So it's quite a long way, a long strike and down plunge of that mineralization. And that hole was targeting a geophysical anomaly by AMT surveying, which I'll talk about shortly. And it hit nearly 7 meters of massive and semi-massive sulfides. And it proved that there are significant potential for mineralization beneath the existing resource. So that's something that we're always very intrigued about. BCL were not interested in growing the resource at the time. They were really focused on tons. So they were really looking at firming up the existing resource area for potential mining. So that was never followed up as part of that joint venture. So earlier this year, or started late last year and earlier this year, we did follow that hole up in an attempt to grow the resource to the east, and we drilled hole 153, and it was a pretty interesting hole. You can see it just to the east of the hole 94 intercept, and it was a successful hole. It certainly hit nickel sulfide mineralization, but unfortunately it was very narrow. So, and that's a feature of these styles of ore body, where you can be in several meters of massive sulfide ore and move 50 meters along strike, and it can really pinch to something narrow, and in another 50 meters it's or above or below, and it blows out again. So they really pinch and swell. So this was very narrow, sort of centimeter scale nickel sulfide intersections. Certainly the right material, the tenor was good, but just very narrow. And we felt that hole was probably a near miss, but we felt we were pretty close to, certainly in that horizon, and close to that hole, there certainly could be significant thicknesses of mineralization. We attempted to do downhole EM surveying, which is a technique you generally employ in these sorts of deposits, and that'll tell you how close you are to a conductive body, which is probably representing massive sulfides. Unfortunately, the hole was blocked, and we couldn't get the tools down to do that survey. So then we followed that up with a technique called audio frequency magnetic tellurics, which is we call AMT for short, a lot easier to say. And that's a deep seeing, it looks for conductors at depth, and it's certainly a technique that we had trialed here before, and it certainly showed the hole 94 mineralization. So we felt this is a fairly appropriate technique to look for depth extensions of the Mobili resource. And so the next slide just shows the results of that survey, which we received in the middle of this year. The plan view at the top right-hand corner of the slide there, that's actually showing a response from the AMT survey at 500 meters depth. The hot colors, the pink and red colors, are conductive bodies, and that suggests that they might be related to sulfide mineralization, and massive sulfide mineralization in particular. So you can see there's quite a lot of color on that slide, and that gets us very excited. The one in the center there, which is a little bit obscured by the dark shapes of the resource, but there's one you can see, a pink sort of blob that's in the center of that object, and sort of cut off to the northwest. That actually is a really strong anomaly, and that sits beneath the thickest and most well mineralized part of the resource, but at 250 meters below the known mineralization. So that's a very exciting drill target for us. There's a couple of others that sit beneath the resource there, you can see as you move to the east, and then out to the very east of that survey, where you've got holes 94 and 153, you can see lots of color there. Again, this is 500 meters below the surface. We're looking these responses, and those colors off to the east there correlate very well with these two holes that have got some nickel sulfide mineralization in them. So, we feel that there's huge potential based on this AMT survey to expand or grow the resource tons. If you look, and those, I guess I should point out, those anomalies, some of them sit on the edge of what we surveyed, so they're open. So there's more work to do there, and we're certainly heading back there with the AMT to close off those anomalies. If you look at the cross sections below that plan section, the one on the left, I've put the block model on there. So that's the actual block model of the resource is that little, blocky thing at the top of the image there, the one on the left where it says lines 10 and 11. And you can see how well the AMT maps the known mineralization. So those pink blobs correlate beautifully with the known mineralization. And of course, below that, particularly on line 10, we've got a very prominent anomaly that's untested by all drilling, and that's a beautiful drill target for us. And we get, well, as you step through the resource and the AMT data, we see several of those styles of anomalies sitting beneath the known mineralization that require drill testing. The cross sections on the right, that's out where holes 94 and 153 are, the recent hole. And you can see certainly more strong anomalism in that area the sulfide intersections we have hit out there, it's sort of on the edge of the best part of those anomalies. And so again, we feel there's a lot of work to be done out there, lots of drill testing and hopefully a lot more nickel sulfide tons to discover out there. And they're open, they're extensive, they're large and open to the east. So, you know, huge potential to grow the resource at Mambili North, we feel. And it's certainly an area we're looking to drill in the field season between now and Christmas. Just quickly looking at Airstrip and Dabiti, they're slightly different types of mineralization. They're high-grade copper silver mineralization. Our interpretation is these are quite a different style of mineralization to Mambili North nickel mineralization. These are much younger, they appear. And in the case of Airstrip, which does actually overprint or intersect the Mambili nickel mineralization, we think it's just a much younger event and different structural controls, different genesis, but no less exciting because we get fantastic grades in these deposits of copper and silver. And there is what we feel is an analogous deposit over the border in South Africa, which is the Messina Copper Mining District. It's in the same rocks. It has a lot of similarities to what we see at Airstrip and Dabiti, and that was a over 40 million ton copper ore body that extended to about well over a kilometre of depth. So just to put you in the picture there, that the picture at the top right hand of the slide is copper geochemistry. The bullseye targets are higher copper in soils, and you can see the white lines indicate structural trends, and that's what they see at Messina Copper as well. Northwest and northeast structural trends intersecting. They see a lot of dolerite dikes, and they're all spatially associated with mineralization, and that's exactly what we see in these both Airstrip and Dabiti. And so all of those bullseye targets where you get those intersecting structural trends are potential copper targets, copper silver targets for us. Dabiti also has a fairly similar structural pattern and geochemical pattern. You can see some of the drilling that the company's done historically at these deposits, at very high copper and silver grades at both Airstrip and Dabiti, quite shallow. And so there's a supergene enrichment in both of those sets of drill data. And really, we're looking for the deep source of this mineralization. So we're searching for drill targets, at depth 1, 2, 3, 4, 500 meters depth as a sulfide source to this mineralization. And that's certainly what they were mining at Messina Copper in South Africa. Just to zero in on Airstrip and the work we've done this year, we've done a couple of geophysical surveys over Airstrip, the wider Airstrip area. We did gradient array induced polarization, or IP, and IP is a technique that looks for disseminated sulfides. And you can see the image at the top of the slide there, the plan image. We've got a magnetics background. You can see the red sort of northwest trending stripes of the dolerite dikes. They're the big dolerite dikes, but there's lots of smaller ones in between as well. And the overlay on that is the gradient array chargeability. So chargeability indicating potentially disseminated sulfides. You can see certainly lots of anomalous color there, and that's there. They all represent potential targets for us. And it's always good to run these techniques over the known mineralization, and certainly we got a very good response over the known copper mineralization, and then there's lots of untested by drilling chargeability zones to follow up, but you can see on that image. Gradient array gives you a surface expression of anomalism, but it doesn't really give you accurate depth penetration. So we followed this up with some pole dipole IP, which does that. It looks deeper into the ground and gives you a firmer idea of drill targets. So how you can plan your drilling, you can target these cross sections, and those lines that I've put in that surround the planned image are cross sections of the chargeability response from that IP. And you can certainly see the purple colors at high chargeability zones. So they form drill targets. So just, bearing that in mind, the deposit at Messina Copper certainly extends to depth. So, and well over a kilometre depth. So the AMT technique that we employed at Mambili North sees to around 1,000 meters depth. And we feel before we go drilling this, these sections look at around 120 metres depth. We think it'd be prudent to run the AMT. Have it in the area looking at Mobili North, and we're certainly running it over airstrip and Debiti, just to get a better resolution of depth. So, it might be that we should be drilling 300, 400, 500 metre deep holes instead of 100 metre deep holes. So we'd rather be doing that off the bat and drilling the best targets. So we'll be running AMT over these, the most prominent chargeability zones from both the IP techniques we've employed, and we'll be following that up as quickly as we can with drilling in the coming months. And just, looking at the similar pattern at Debiti, you can see there at the top, I've got the chargeability and resistivity anomalies. The chargeability stands out. There's a very strong northeasterly trending chargeable zone. That's that long pink line. It does get intersected by a northwest trending dolerite dike. You can see in the top right hand of that image. And in the middle of that image is where there's a couple of oval shapes, white oval shapes. That's where we've got our near surface high-grade copper silver mineralization. So you can see they correlate beautifully with that long chargeable zone. We've done lines of pole dipole IP over there, and you can see just a couple of examples of that at the bottom of the slide there. You can see the correlating resistivity low and chargeability high is exactly what you'd want to see to present as drill targets. But again, we feel we'll run the AMT over these areas, and that'll just give us a bit more depth resolution, and then we'll follow up immediately with drilling. So, and that drilling is anticipated to take place for the remainder of the field season this year. And we feel that we've got, these are our main targets in Botswana at the moment. There's plenty of more ground to explore. The portfolio is, it's got further nickel, copper, gold, zinc, lead potential. It's really an underexplored and very exciting portfolio of targets. But in the short term, these are our best drill targets, and we feel very excited about what these might produce for Si6. So thanks for listening, and keep an eye on the news flow. There'll be plenty to come between now and the end of the year. Thank you.